What's up, Online Empire Academy? As you can see, we are in a totally different setup. I'm Joshua Woodward. I'm the podcast host, and we upgraded everything. This is the first podcast with everything upgraded. Obviously, you can see I have a new mic. We're going to be upgrading our camera too soon. So I'm really excited just about all the different things. You'll be seeing more videos about that soon. But today, I wanted to bring somebody on with a little more experience in the tech world. And what I mean by tech is apps. I don't know anything about apps. I know about Udemy. I know about Amazon Books, but I'm not really great about the app side of things. And there's money to be made there, especially for people who are tech sensitive and understand that kind of stuff. I don't, but I have great ideas for apps. So I've always wanted to work directly with it. Somebody who can do that. And so I wanted to bring Alex on today because he is the man, the myth, the legend behind apps. So his site is called Problemo something. I'm sorry. Give us your site. I'm not going to do it justice.
Just problemio.com.
Problemio.com. And Alex he's not only an app developer, he's had several amazing apps, really great mobile apps, specifically mobile apps. And then he's had top selling Amazon books, and he's a top Udemy teacher. You guys know we love Udemy. We talk about it all the time. And yeah, so Alex, I want to hear your story. I want to hear how you got started. How in the world did you get started with mobile apps?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I love your new equipment.
Absolutely, thank you.
So apps, it was a windy journey. I at first had a business idea, which didn't work on the web, and I was like, "Oh, forget this idea." and the idea was basically that people were going to come together and crowdsource business ideas and help each other out as a community and sort of help each other plan, the business ideas. And then once an idea was kind of vetted and ready, we were going to crowdfund that idea, and the community was going to kind of build it. And that totally didn't work. But the reason I wanted to make it is because, I started out as a software engineer, and like, you can make products, but you know nothing about business and marketing when you're a software engineer. And so all my ideas, they lacked like any sort of sound business strategy. And of course, I made a ton of mistakes. What I was realizing in hindsight is that these mistakes were like so preventable if somebody just could advise me like in 5 minutes of conversation. That's why I wanted to make this website, so that there would be some sort of community or some sort of advice, and people wouldn't make those mistakes. And anyway, that idea didn't work. So I was like, okay, and that was something like 2012 or something like that. And I was like, well, now I got to learn apps, because this is the new thing, and I'm a programmer. So like, if you're not learning the next thing, you're a dinosaur. And I didn't know what app to build, so I thought, why don't I just build this failed business idea? That would be my first app. Why not? I didn't have a better idea. And so I built this app, and it was just basically a tool for me to learn programming on apps. I didn't really have much more plan for it, but there was this one quirky feature that I made that made all the difference. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here with you like that feature didn't exist. And it was super basic, and it was basically people were able to ask me business questions for free. They got the app. They thought it was like a business planning app, and it was. But then there was this feature there, like, hey, ask a question, and it was free. So people were asking. They didn't know who I was, but they were asking a question. And because I got to talk to so many people, like I've talked to a couple thousand people now on that feature, I got to know exactly what they were struggling with. And I was able to improve the app in that way, right? To make sure that the app like fixes that problem that people are having, another problem that people are having, answers that question, this question, and pretty quickly, actually, because of that, it was at one point the highest rated business app. And at the moment, if you search for the word business on Android, it's #1, and it's been like that for like 2+ years. I was really surprised when that happened. But it's like, and behind me are like million and billion-dollar companies, and I'm like, they're #1. I don't know why. But I have a nice laugh at them. But that was really made all the difference, because I got feedback. Indirectly, I wasn't asking for feedback, but essentially I was getting feedback from my users, and they were telling me what to change in the app, essentially, and I was changing that, and the app kind of quickly grew. I mean, of course, I said there's still a lot to improve on the app. Like the design is still not where it should be, and there's still some bugs and all that. But like, because I'm just one person and apps are not the only thing I'm doing. But yeah, that's really what helped the app grow, and it really helped me develop an expertise in entrepreneurship and marketing and understand exactly what people are struggling with. So I was able to take that into my YouTube channel, my books, my Udemy, and whatever else I do, you know. And that really was sort of the beginning.
Oh, so cool. It's so cool. I think, you know, there's always the common theme of I needed to do something about my current situation. And I love your situation of like, I love you, you use the word dinosaur. And it's so true, especially in that market, especially with what you're doing. If you're not progressive, if you're not following the next trend, it really can become this dinosaur type of situation. My question that I have for you is, would you recommend the mobile app space for an entrepreneur? Just a lot of our audience are people who are, you know, some of them are teaching on Udemy. Some of them have ideas and concepts that may not be a general idea to the rest of the world, but they've got something proprietary that they can develop. Would you recommend going out and doing that?
I think in any business, I'd recommend getting advice or mentoring from somebody who's done it before, because every business that's mature, which the app world is mature now, you know, it's a challenging business environment because it's very competitive, and for the apps, that's very true. People really struggle, and if a person is not a developer, they're going to have to shell out thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to see their ideas come true, which is not cheap. And considering that most apps fail, right, there's a big risk and a terrible risk reward. So I think, you know, if people want to learn to make apps, it's a different story, because that's a skill that like you can take with you forever, and then every idea you have today or tomorrow or next year, you can build that. But it's going to be, you know, there's some pros and cons. If you want to have somebody build it, it's going to be expensive and risky. If you want to build it on your own, you're going to be banging your head against the wall. I can guarantee you. No, it's a really frustrating experience. You get stuck and you have no idea when you will figure out this problem. Like, is it going to be today, in an hour, in 5 minutes, or in 3 days? Like, you're sitting there and nothing else gets done. It's very frustrating and stressful. So it's a difficult, like, this, of everything I do, the apps get like 10 times more attention than anything else. Huh. But it's a difficult business, even for me. I mean, you know, I've got a lot of downloads, but like, try to get $1 out of an app user. They'll do anything to avoid paying 99 cents, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, I mean, you have to be like a Picasso, like Michelangelo art level to figure out how to get money from them.
That's great advice. I think that, you know, for me, I've had all these ideas or thoughts of like, oh, that app would be so cool, but I haven't taken that step. And it's good to know that there is a learning curve. There is a process that you've got to walk through in order to get there. So yeah, that's really encouraging. The other question that I had is, you've branched off. I mean, as a good entrepreneur, you don't have all of your income in one area. So what was it that brought you? Let's start with Udemy. What was it that brought you to Udemy?
You know, I was playing around with YouTube, and I thought YouTube was cool. And then, you know, I was kind of just looking for additional ways to have revenue, because by this time I already had, Udemy was like the last thing I tried, and that was like 2 years ago. And you know, I tried apps, books, blah 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 blah, and all of these sources of income, they were like okay, or sometimes below okay, and together they added to something reasonable, but like there wasn't that breakthrough, right? So that kept me hunting for another thing to try. So I tried, you know, like Fiverr, I tried the books, I tried YouTube, and eventually I tried X, Y, and Z, and then Udemy. And Udemy just was one of the things that I ended up trying. And it was actually a struggle for me there as well. You know, at first it also was a mediocre source of income for me. For 9 months, for my first 9 months, it was like very mediocre, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time here. You know, it was a struggle. Now it's like unreal. But because I kind of figured out how to make courses that people like, I figured out how to sell them, all that kind of stuff. But when I started, like, none of it was in place, and I was, you know, just a beginner, like a newbie, and it also wasn't working for me. But you know, it was just me trying, experimenting with everything I could, you know, like affiliate marketing, different coaching websites, or like a whole bunch of things I tried. And it's just, you know, Udemy kind of, and so actually at one point they were all mediocre. It just, you know, and I kept trying which one was gonna, it's like, which one is gonna hit, which one is gonna hit. And then Udemy started growing, and then all the other ones stayed like, you know, kind of middling. But Udemy started growing, and then I was like, oh, I gotta go all in on Udemy. So now I'm like 80% all in on Udemy.
That's so cool.
These other things get like, you know, the other like little bit of attention.
I love that you kind of have put your hands in things, and then for me personally, I'll put my hands in a lot of things, and then sometimes I'll forget about what I had my hands in. You know, I'll put out a, you know, in your case, it's like putting out a book, or you know, creating a Udemy course, or a YouTube page, or a blog post, or a mobile app, and all of this, and then you've got all your fingers in things. And for me, sometimes I forget what I had last week. And so I love that you were able to kind of keep track of that, and what's doing really well. What are some of the things that you've seen within Udemy that have kind of crossed the threshold that, you know, it's also doing well with YouTube and your mobile app? Are you teaching concepts about mobile apps on Udemy?
Well, yeah, actually, I have two courses about apps. I have a Android development course that I did with another developer, Val Okafor, and I have a course which just talks about the app business. Like before you write a single line of code for your app, before you like hire your developer, this is the course to take so that like anybody can understand the ins and outs of that space, you know? Like if you were going to open a restaurant, you should understand the ins and outs of running a restaurant, right? Anything from hiring a chef to how to keep it clean, to the licenses, to the marketing, right? The business of it. And I think that's what a lot of app people, like app developers, they're missing it because they just know development. And people who are kind of on the outside looking in, they're missing it because they're not in that minutia day in, day out of the actual business of it. So I have that course that actually does well. And it was one of my first courses that I made, and for a long time it didn't do well. And then really, I think it's kind of like the opposite. There was, you know, one thing that Udemy does really well is that their staff really, if you reach out and you say like, I need help, I need advice, they'll give you a lot of time. My courses were really bad. Like, you know, I had like, you know, worse equipment. My own delivery wasn't good. I wasn't sure how to make good courses, and they were just mediocre. And then they kind of directed me here, study this, study this, study this, improve this, get this better, you know, better. Here's how to have better audio, video. And because of them, like I was able to improve on all the things where I sucked, you know, like, and everything can be improved, like everything. And I saw really from the improvement, the incremental improvement of the quality of the product I was making, the increase in revenue, and the because, you know, we're getting better reviews, blah blah blah, and it was hitting the Udemy algorithm like, oh, better quality signals, you know, like more engagement, more reviews, and Udemy was like promoting me more naturally, you know, but really it was from the increase of quality of the product that I was creating. And so instead of me focusing on like teaching apps on Udemy, it was really like taking the things I learned from Udemy and going back and actually applying them to all the other things where I was, and actually making them better so that they grow, right? Kind of like, because I still kept like having an eye on all these little parts, and but I think actually having the experience of being an instructor on Udemy, and also I've taken like over 100 courses as a student on Udemy.
Wow.
Like everything, including 9 courses about how to make money on Udemy. You know, when I was struggling, I had to hustle, and I had to really look everywhere I could for advice. But what I can say now is there's 2 things that like really made a difference. Is like relentless. I guess not relentless. I could always do better, but like a serious attention to improving your quality, my quality of the product that I make. And that, like, whenever I do that, that's like, you know, my business sometimes goes like plateau, plateau, plateau. I improve quality and like leg up, and then plateau, plateau, plateau. But then like, you know, another improvement and then leg up. So it's not always like leg up, leg up, leg up. But then when I do something substantial to improve the product I put out, it actually creates a leg up. And then I had this other course that I did on Udemy. I partnered with another guy, Tracy Haynes, and he teaches this interesting concept of how to become a celebrity.
Huh.
But not like Justin Bieber, but more like a business celebrity, right? And it's really, like, it sounds unusual, but it's really not, none of it is rocket science because it's business, you know? But the idea is basically like the basic idea is standing out, really standing out, right? So I went back to what I learned on Udemy, like quality, right, blah, blah, blah. And then I already know marketing. Like that's the one thing that like at least kind of got me to even the mediocre level. And I was like, okay, why don't I take all these things that I'm working on, right? The million little things, right? And why don't I go and really create a plan to become big on that platform, become big on a lot of platforms, right? And that's like, that sort of attains a sort of a thought leader status, right? People see me, oh, you know, YouTube, like now I have 1 million views. Well, I mean, like 10 or 100 million would be better, but like as much as possible, right? Books, oh, you know, bestseller, apps, 1 million downloads, right? So it just looks like a more prominent brand that I have, right? And so I actually learned from that guy, Tracy. I think of all the students in that course, I learned the most from that course, making it, because I was myself learning, because he was like the main bringer of insight in that course.
Yeah.
And this is something like he has a service and charges like $5,000 a person, and for me to just be like picking his brain, and for Udemy students to pick his brain for such discounts is unbelievable too. And by the way, like students, they don't get it. Like I thought this was going to be like the most loved, amazing course, because for me, like it really made a huge difference. Like learning from him. Students, they're not that into it. They don't get it. Like they're not like, the response I'm getting, that light bulb in their head is not going off. Maybe it's the presentation or something, but I'm telling you, like I'm the #1 student of that course. Because I'm applying it. But it's actually, so I put this plan into action. Sorry, my answer is like a really long, but I think it might be insightful.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, so I put this plan into action. Starting like, I stopped my preparation. I finished my preparation for Black Friday, like in the middle of November, and I started preparing this mega plan, where I had a sprint of like 40 days where I wrote like 10 books, just sitting and writing. And some of the books were like short, you know, like 30 plus pages. A business book doesn't have to be long, because if you think about it, business books usually have one core concept, and the rest is filler. Maybe examples, whatever, but usually one core concept, and you go and execute. And almost all business books are like that. 4 Steps to Epiphany, it's like that. You know, Eric Ries's book, the Lean Startup, it's like that. Almost, you know, Gary Vee's books, they're like that. One core idea per book, right? Does not have to be long. So I wrote these books, like boom, 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 I banked them out. So it's like, that was my sort of Amazon. Then I spent a month improving my Android apps. Now I'm spending this month improving my iPhone apps. Next month I'm gonna grow, you know, put more like effort into SEO and growing my blog and making it all nice and stuff. And so I think after spring, so this is like a 6 months plan. After spring 2016, I'm going, and obviously I have like a really big presence on Udemy, so I'm gonna try to really go big as a like a, almost like become a extremely prominent person just in the business marketing niche area. You know, raising quality of everywhere that I am, and sort of getting my name and brand out there as a, not just as a like, here's my book, here's my course, but like, you know, I am so and so. Like I'm a big deal, right? I don't know how to say it, but does that make sense? Like,
Absolutely. I think that
like,
it's the personal branding that really becomes a huge importance to what you're doing. And I think a lot of us forget that we are our brands, and the things that we are doing are under the umbrella of our brands. So whether you guys are making Udemy videos and courses, or you know, you're just selling on Amazon or eBay, when you start diversifying and going for different things, that becomes a part of your brand and who you are. So Joshua Woodward is under the umbrella of the Online Empire Academy. I do the podcast, but I, as Joshua Woodward, become my own brand. And I think that you totally, I love it. I have so many ideas spinning in my heads of things that can be improved, of like, when somebody types in your name on Google, what are they finding? You know, and is that name, is your name associated with what you want it to be associated with? And if not, why aren't those things down? You know, why haven't you torn them down? Or, you know, what are you doing to actively pursue bettering who you are as a developer, as an Amazon seller? What is it that you are connected with that ultimately is going to branch you to that next thing? My question is, how do I word this? When you wrote your books, I mean, you said you just wrote 10 books. When you do that, are you also partnering those books with a course on Udemy?
Yeah, all my books have like a sister course on Udemy. You know, and by the way, so I had books before. You know, originally I wrote books even before I was on Udemy, but eventually they became sort of like book course. I mean, I have like 70 plus courses at this point, so not all courses have a book, only some. You know, like some topics that I think will do well on Amazon, I kind of make a book. But like books are like, they're really, I mean, writing business books is not that much fun. It's really tedious writing, right? So I'm not a fan of writing it. So I kind of only write them if I think like, oh, this book can make some sales, you know? And you know, there's some research behind that. I can talk about what I do for my own research, but you know, not far from every course can become a book and sell. At least my books.
It's really cool. I love picking people's brains who have, you know, it's so funny. I started this and wanted to talk because of you know, your experience with app development, but there's so much more than that. And I love how things progress like that, because now it's as I'm talking to you, I'm realizing it's so much more about a development of personal brand. And I think that's so cool. Just that you took what was, you know, again, you diversified who you are and what you do, and then you kind of tapped into what things were working best for you. And I love that. I love that so much, because it's encouraging to me, it's encouraging to the listeners that you're not just an Amazon seller, you're not just an eBay seller, you're not just a Udemy teacher. There's so much more that you can eventually do with this, and becoming a brand and branding yourself. What would be your advice to somebody who, I mean, you just worked with an incredible person who is an incredible brand ambassador for themselves. What are some of the things that you could tell our audience in building their own brand?
I mean, I'm not the, you know, super expert. I still have a lot of mistakes that I can talk about, which I made. So I'm not like, you know, even I have a lot to learn. But I think, you know, I would say it's really hard to pick a area of focus, because most people's areas of focus are something that they like, that is interesting, and then it's like those are very few things, you know, music, travel, passionate things people are passionate about, and those are like impossible industries because the competition is out of this world, right? So I mean, there's some strong thought that goes into this. I think, you know, my entire motivator for starting this was to help people prevent like very basic mistakes, right? So like a basic mistake would totally be somebody going like, oh yeah, I'm passionate about travel, and going into the travel industry. Not realizing like, hey, also think about competition, right? So that's 1 minute of conversation can help a person sort of, understand it's not easy. So I feel like almost what I would really advise is to find a mentor or advisor who's done what you want to do before successfully, because it might be costly, but it will save so much time and so many headaches and so much confusion, and it would just be a better experience. And I think a lot of the advanced people who are who are like successful, they will say they have coaches. And even myself, like I don't have a coach, but like I try to get into like masterminds with people that I respect. I'm like, and I'm very picky who I respect. Like I really want to make sure that that person is doing the things that I'm impressed with. And I'm like, and I'm wowed by that person, right? And I'm like, wow, okay, I gotta network with this person. Like not network, but like I gotta exchange ideas with this person because I have a lot to learn from them. So I really would advise people to either get in masterminds or get coaching, but all quality. I wouldn't get into crappy masterminds. I wouldn't get into like coaches who are just coaches, but they haven't actually had their business. Like maybe they're good, I don't know, but it doesn't feel so right to me, because how practical would it be? So that would be my advice. I think that's one thing I didn't do early on that I wish I had gotten a mentor, and it would have like made my experience so much easier, especially early. That's what I would suggest.
That's so good. It's so funny, just hearing you talk about having a mentor and having somebody to kind of bring you, in a sense, bring you through the ranks and kind of point out your pitfalls, and Dean and Brett have been that for me. Obviously, our listeners know both of them, and that's why I am who I am today. So I can definitely attest to that. And that was something that kind of just ended up happening because I was a part of this incredible organization. But I love that you went out and reached out for it, because a lot of us don't have the same opportunity. You don't, unless you're working for a corporate business or whatever, working alone as an Amazon seller, or in your case, as a developer, you're home a lot. You're not necessarily in big offices with a bunch of people, and you can't necessarily get that one-on-one interaction. And I love, and please, Empire, hear this, because it is really important that you reach out to somebody who knows business and knows the Amazon space better than you. Whether that's guys like Chris Green, or even if it's Dean or me, just reach out to somebody who's doing what you enjoy. And I also love what you said about being careful of who you give, in a sense, give your respect to, or give that time to, because that really is important. You don't have a million hours a day. You only have a certain amount of time a day, and give that to the people who you really trust, and trust their business and their business expertise, because there's going to be people out there who have amazing courses, but aren't necessarily in the same space as you, or have an incredible audience. I think that's, and especially in the podcasting space, it's like, oh, I want to go to the bigger audience. I want to go to somebody with a bigger audience. That doesn't always mean that they're the same content or running after the same things as you. And that's a really key concept to just kind of boil down in your heart of like, what is it that I'm running after? What is it that I'm chasing? And how am I going to reach that goal? And I think you nailed it on the head with just pointing us in the direction of like, get somebody who's already done it. And I'm totally going to take that, because there's areas of my life I want to pursue, and I need to pursue somebody who's already done that specifically.
Yeah, and actually, like I've actually have taken that into other things, like anything that I'm sort of working on. I'm like, I should get a coach first. It will make like not just business, like but some stuff that maybe like like even like learning guitar or something. You can struggle on your own, or you can save so much struggle just hiring somebody for like 1 or 2 hours. It doesn't have to be expensive.
That's so good. I love that. I think that sometimes the the American, we call it true grit. The American way is like, I'm not taking anybody, I'm not doing anything, like I can do it on my own. And that's totally a mindset that I've had to break, of like, I can't do it on my own. I legitimately can't do tech. I'm so much further than I was because I have Dean in my life, but I'm like the most basic tech person ever. I'm like, give me my phone. I can work my phone because I'm on it all the time. But like, besides that, I am so just tech illiterate. I mean, even before we hopped on this podcast, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going to call Dean because the sound's not working. Like, it's totally something that I've had to push into and break the mindset of I can do it on my own, because I can't. The reality is there's things that I'm going to hit every single week that I just physically cannot handle and I can't do on my own. And I love your mindset of, if it's going to get me that much further, I'm going to go after it. And hiring somebody for $1,500 for an hour seems like an astronomical amount of money. But ultimately, if it's going to make you $10, $20, $30,000 for that hour spent with that person, it's so worth the money. And to fill those gaps where you're not necessarily going to know what to do or how to do it. I love that. I feel so inspired by that mindset.
Yeah, well, it's also like, how much is your stress worth? Just like not having to bang your head against the wall, somebody to like help you. How much is that worth? Like, I think it's like a different conversation, but it's like loving yourself. Why not spend to make yourself have a nicer day?
I love that. Loving yourself. That's really good. I love that perspective. Well, Alex, thank you so much for being on. I feel so inspired by the things that you've talked about. And Empire, if you want to know more about Alex and everything he's doing, go to the onlineempireacademy.com/Alex. And that you're going to get his information of where to go there, as well as his Udemy courses. He has, again, I think you said 70 courses earlier. Is that correct?
72.
72. Oh my gosh. And I'm sure he'll be producing so many more. So guys, keep up with it. And he's got amazing content out there, and is looking to help you. I mean, you heard about his app earlier, and just how he's there to help people, and he's practicing what he's preaching in a sense. So Alex, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. And by the way, I think you didn't mention that, like, there's actually like a special offer that I have for your audience, that the link on your show notes to my website will have a list of courses that you can grab. For any course of mine, people can grab for $1. And if you want to enter the code at checkout, it's the secret code, which is not so secret anymore. BH1, so boy, H, and the number 1, just so those 3 letters, and makes any of my courses just $1. And by the way, like, if you can get coaching and you can get a mastermind group, actually courses are like the next best thing, because you're like educating yourself. And it's actually, Udemy didn't exist when I started. I wish it existed so that I can take those courses early. But now it's available for people, and it's actually an amazing resource. Like I was telling you before we started, that I myself, like, even though I made 72 courses, I've taken like over 100 courses on everything, like how to sleep better. Like, I'm even getting my mom into it, like, like managing stress, like all these things. It just makes your life more interesting. I think you just keep learning. I actually love Udemy, I think, as a student, almost more than a teacher. Of course, I make money as a teacher, so but I love it a lot as a student.
I love it. That's so cool. And again, it's, you said it was BH1, correct?
Yeah. Any of my courses, just makes them, any course, $1.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you guys, again, go follow the onlineempireacademy.com/Alex. His courses are there, and you guys can get it. Again, BH1 for $1. I mean, come on, you can invest $1 in yourselves, guys. And just an incredible opportunity. Thank you so much for giving that to us. I mean, I know that I'm going to go check out the courses, see if there's something I can take. But yeah, again, I appreciate you being on. Empire, if you want to know more about us, just go to the onlineempireacademy.com. We're also on Facebook and iTunes and Stitcher Radio and YouTube. You guys, if you want to see this video live, all of our podcasts are live, and they go to YouTube as well. So if you guys want to watch and kind of see the face-to-face interaction, it's there as well. So until next time, Empire, have a fantastic day. And Alex, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.